Today we're going to talk about more about process documentation using our process tools. So I'm going to go over here to the 4 key functions and access a process. And when you click a process from your 4 key functions, it takes you to this screen, which we call the process tools page. So this is where the documentation of a process happens. Last week, we discussed work plans and checklists. So today we're going to continue on going through the rest of the tools, scripts all the way down to audio files. But just as in a brief recap, sorry, I'm going to allow someone's audio. Okay, a recording. Just as a brief recap, let's talk a little bit about work plans and checklists again, and then flow into scripts. So this tool right at the top is called a work plan, and the work plan is the tool, the template that is used the most. So this is just simply a step-by-step set of tasks, instructions, actions on how work is done. So we discussed last week about if the process has one work plan, then you would build one work plan here, and typically it could be the same as the name of the process itself. So right here, I'm seeing customer complaints. This one's called customer complaint processing. If you're going to have multiple work plans, then that implies that there are multiple parts to the process, multiple workflows, more than one thing that happens that has kind of a beginning and an end. If that's the case, then you would build multiple work plans. One feature that I'll just highlight again for any of you who weren't here last week, we do have an AI work plan generator right here. So when I click this, it brings up create a step-by-step for, and then I would put in a prompt, a description of what it is I'm looking for. So it can say create a step-by-step for customer complaints, or whatever you're looking for goes into this prompt field. We just had a new update to the Resource Center where you can search for AI generated work plans, and you'll get like a more detailed step-by-step, as well as some suggestions on how to word your prompts. The better you create the prompts, the more specific and better the results will be. So once a AI generated work plan is created, then you can then click a button and add it directly to TouchStone. And then your work plan will appear as tasks, just like this one is. One other quick thing here, this is a convert to checklist tool. For those of you who haven't seen this, if I hit this and then say, okay, my work plan is going to get turned into a checklist. So this one looks a little sloppy because this is the one that we used last week to kind of talk about what's good and bad in a work plan. But you can see that the tasks from this work plan here are then created into a checklist here. Someone's asking if it can go in the reverse. No, it can't go in the reverse. So you can't build a checklist and then turn it into a work plan. It doesn't work that way. It's the work plan into the checklist. And this is one of the reasons why it's always a good idea to start with a work plan in your process. So if you're looking at a process you're documenting, you're thinking, well, this is going to have a script and maybe it'll have a checklist and maybe it'll have a form. Don't start with the script or the checklist or the form. Always start with the work plan, because the work plan is kind of the guiding tool that kind of holds all the other tools together in a way. So for example, I have task number 2, locate the customer's invoice, use the script. So the script is right here. Fill out the customer complaint form. So the customer complaint form is over here. Determine if this is a warranty issue, follow the warranty and guarantee policy. Well, the policy is right here. So ideally, someone who's learning this could go and follow the tasks step by step, and they would, in a sense, see how all the other tools are meant to be used. So when they use a script or when they fill out a form. Okay, so let's talk about scripts next. So firstly, to build a script, it's the same as a work plan and a checklist. All the tools work the same way. If you want to build something new, you click the plus sign, then you're going to be prompted for your script title. So you'd put in name of the script, really think what is this script going to be? Can you title it in a way that explains what's in it? It probably wouldn't be the same name as the process itself. So think about the purpose or what the best name is. Also fill in the objective. So this is the purpose of the script. All the objectives are the same inside of every tools in terms of their meaning. So what is the purpose of this script? Here you can give context if possible. This is like the why. Why is this script important? Why am I using this? These types of even notes as you're documenting things can be really important because when somebody's learning this, again, they're going to know the why of it. And it's really true that if you can give someone context, an employee as a manager, you could say, this is why, this is the impact it has, or this is the issue. If you don't do it this way, then the more likely they are to follow it. So you just hit create script, and then you see right down here, my new script. The tools are drag and drop to reorder as well. So if you want to move this script down, or you want to take this new one and move it to the top, I'm just dragging and dropping to change the order. So once you've built your script, you'll see the title appear over here to the left under the title of the tool. If I'm going to start to work on this, the first thing I do is add a script item. So a script item is essentially a prompt and a script. So the prompt, if I click this open, this field will open. The prompt is the why of this, what's being said and why. So think, is this a question being asked? Is this is it setting the stage for something? Is it showing you where you're going to start with the conversation? So that's the prompt. The script is the words. So these are the actually words that are spoken. So the prompt is the question, the situation, it might be a greeting, it might be figure out why they're calling. So you can put in a phrase or just an explanation on why you're going to say the words that are to follow in this section. Once you've added the first item, then if this is a conversational script that continues on, or you're going to add more questions to a FAQ script, you just go add script item again. And now I'm getting another prompt and another script. So then it's the same thing. You put in the prompt, which is what is the next step of this conversation, and then what is said. You can use script items to do if-thens as well. So it's like if this, then say, and then this, save this, and then the script begins the explanation of, or that what is said in that situation. Then go on to the next and say, if that, so the if-thens or if then do this. This toolbar is exactly the same as the other tools. It's probably not a good idea to put a hyperlink into a script. I mean, I suppose you could, but the script is more just something that somebody's sometimes even memorizing, but basically using it to learn when and why you say certain things and how you say them. They're disseminating information. If the hyperlink is going off to like maybe a checklist or a form that might be filled out, if somebody said something in a certain way, well, then maybe that would be the case. But most of the time, these are just the prompts and the scripts are just going to be text. Pictures probably aren't great here either. And I'll just, these are just my opinions. It doesn't mean that you can't do it this way. A picture and a script doesn't make a whole lot of sense because these are words that we're speaking. If you get into explanations like that, like this is how it's supposed to look, that probably belongs up in the work plan instead of in the script. But nothing's 100%. If you have a picture and you're using it to explain why something is said in a certain way, well, then, maybe that works. So I'm going to hit cancel on this. The script items can be reordered too. So I'm just pulling up and pulling down to reorder these. And sometimes when you're building a script, it can be like a brainstorming where you're thinking, how are we going to articulate or lay out this conversation? And in that case, you might decide to reorder them in different ways. So it's just drag and drop to reorder. Once you've added your script, if you want to edit it from there, you just click and you see this opens, and then I can change and edit it in any way. Cancel. Just as a recap for these toolbar items, we went through these last week, but I'll just say it again quickly here. This right here will allow you to move a tool out of one process and move it into another. So if you build a script inside of the customer complaint process, and then you decide later that you want to make two processes out of it, or you want to take this script out and put it in another process, you just click the little move icon. And now I'm going to be looking over at my 4 key functions. These are all the subfunctions. I would choose the subfunction. Now I'm going to see the list of processes that are in this subfunction. So basically you're hunting for the process that you want to move this into. You choose the process and then you hit move, and now you can see that script is gone from here. I've had people do this before, and then they call support and say, my tool disappeared, like the script vanished. It didn't vanish because nothing vanishes from TouchStone. Sometimes it feels that way when you perform a certain action and then you can't find what you were working on, but I guarantee you nothing vanishes from TouchStone. And if you find something that you think has vanished, then it's probably been moved somewhere else. So the best way to find it is to go here to the search and just search for even the partial title, and then you'll see where it is. And you could move it back. So let's talk about the different types of scripts. So generally, I would see 3 different kinds of scripts. There is what I would call a workflow script or a conversational script. That's the first type. And this type is documenting a conversation. So it generally starts with a greeting like this one does. And then it goes all the way through a conversation, back and forth until you get to the end of the conversation at the bottom. So this is when someone's explaining something. It's related to service delivery sometimes when you're explaining your service or you're giving, explaining how something works. It's great for sales processes where you're trying to start with a, hey, how are you? And go all the way to getting someone to buy what it is that you're presenting. So a conversational script, that's the first kind. The second kind of script is just a knowledge script. So here's this one that we're calling customer complaint knowledge. So a knowledge script is heavy with a lot of information, and it's giving techniques for how to get your message across or deliver the information that you're trying to at the correct time and in the correct way. So like this says, dig deeper by asking the right questions. And so you got the scripting of questions. Do it in a master the explanatory style. So how to explain something. When you're building a sales script, depending on what you're selling, there's a style that you want your salespeople to use. And it depends on what you're selling again. So explaining how something's supposed to work. Another style is kind of risk reward. So, or problem solution. Here's the problems that you're having, and here are my solutions. If you don't do it this way, you're going to have X, Y, and Z problem risk. And then the reward is if you use my product, then you're going to have these benefits. So think about, not all scripts have this different style impact, but if it does, then consider building a knowledge script. The knowledge script doesn't go in any particular order. It's just a series of techniques or ways of speaking that will work well in that situation. Third type of script is an FAQ script. So this is an example of that. So this is simply question, answer, question, answer. What do you say when the product is damaged or late? I'm so sorry that the product was arrived late. It's very disappointing. So it's, again, the prompt is the question, script's the answer, but the answer is written in a speaking format. So somebody could read this, and that's exactly how they would say it. In FAQ scripts, for any of these types of scripts, this kind of thing in the prompt can be good. Wait and listen. Um, or what to say tactfully, let the customer know the mistake was on their end. When you're responding to difficult situations, you want to think, what kind of tone do you want people to have? Is it empathic? Is it stern? Is it clear? So any kind of subjective elements like that, emotions, you can put them in the prompt. So the idea is that when somebody's learning, I'm going to say this word for word or in my own words, and this is the way I'm going to say it. So let's go back to the first type of script. This one's called providing a solution. So this goes again from the beginning to end. So what you want to do is think about where the conversation starts for your conversational script and get it there with the first prompt. Usually it's a greeting of some kind. Hi, I received your request. Let's talk about a solution. Then you go to the next prompt. So you're thinking, you're going to say that, the person's going to then talk about their problem. And then what do you say next? Ask for their version of the situation. Listen. So let's say you asked for, you asked, how can I help you? Tell me what your problem is. And they already did this. They talked about their version of the situation. Well, the person learning this would skip that and go right down to this. Confirm that you understand. Can I repeat back what you said to me? So my point is the script is going to lay this out in the best possible way for it to happen. This is the ideal situation. And it's meant to be modified, jumped around, skipped, moved to the next prompt if it doesn't happen in that exact way. You want to think of the ideal situation for it to happen from beginning to end. Give your people all the information that you can, as much as you can put into the script on how to handle the different situations and essentially how to move a person from the greeting all the way to the bottom where they feel heard and their complaint has been resolved. Or move a prospect from the very beginning with the greeting all the way down to they're saying yes to you because they feel so great about it. Not every conversation is going to happen exactly that way. But the idea here is if you train your people in the ideal way for it to happen, they memorize that, they practice it, then they're going to know the basics of it and be able to improvise as they go through. And I'll make this point again, just because I think scripts kind of get dismissed a lot because people think in their minds, well, nothing happens the same way. I can't possibly have one person saying it exactly the same way as another, or every customer needs something different. Or every customer has different questions, or how are we ever going to know what people are complaining about? Because it's different every time. Every time you say to yourself, it's different every time, just think about that again. I mean, hear my voice in your head. It's not different every time. Sometimes it's different, sure, but it's not different every time. I would venture a guess that it's the same most of the time. It can sound a little bit different, but 80% of the time, it's pretty much the same. If you're dealing with very complicated high-end service delivery and really like long sales cycles with a very complicated product, all I would say about that is you're going to have to work harder to build a great script. It's not impossible, though. It can be extremely beneficial. And the reason why it's so beneficial is if you do this right, you can take somebody who has very little experience. They have the minimum qualifications, like we talked about last week. So you vetted them through recruiting and hiring. They have the minimum qualifications, and then you're going to train them from that point forward. The better your script is, the easier it's going to be to train them. In some situations, you can take somebody who's been selling your product for 5 to 10 years or delivering your service for 10 years. And if you work with them to really document a great script, you can bump up the training time of those new people significantly because you're giving them the words. Are they going to get it 100% of the time? No. Will they get it 80% of the time? Yeah, they will. So you're putting your knowledge into the script in words that people use and that can be memorized, and then they could come out as if it's that person's experience or knowledge. Oftentimes, if you have a conversational script like this one, or a workflow script, whatever you want to call it, you will also have a frequently asked questions script. So these two I often see together. This workflow script, greeting all the way down to the end and the ideal situation all along the way, how to move the customer along. And then you sit and you think, okay, we've just laid out how to go from the beginning to the end. So what are all the variables that happen in between? What are all the things that people ask? What are all the situations they bring up? What are all the problems they come up with? Brainstorm it with your sales team, with your customer service team, have people throw out whatever they've learned and heard over time. Write it all down in prompts, prompt script. Start all with the prompts, add a prompt, add an item, and then leave the script part blank and just keep adding in all the questions or issues that people have seen come up. And then go back to the beginning and say, okay, if the product arrives damaged or late, that was our first thing we came up with, what should we say? And have people start, giving you ideas and write it all down. And then ask them or yourself, what kind of tone is important here? And then write that into the prompt, then move to the next one. So brainstorm all these things, get them all down in an FAQ script. Frequently asked questions, FAQ, that's familiar to everyone. It doesn't have to be a question. It could be a situation. It could be something that happens. And then what would you say in that situation? Are you going to get every single one of the things that might be said or might happen? No, but again, what if you got 80%? And then you could take a brand new person and train them in all this. Your existing sales team, it probably took them years to figure out a way to handle all those situations. But your new people are going to be benefiting from all of that. This is what we mean when we say when you don't have documented processes and your employees quit, it's like all of your intellectual property, all of your money is just walking out the door with them because they've learned on your dime what to do and what not to do. So this is like capitalizing on that and putting it into a system that you then own. Okay, so let's go to the next tool. This is called uploaded files, and this tool allows you to take Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF documents. So those 4 file types. Oh, and also they just added the presentation software. What is it called? I can't remember. I'll remember before we end today. Publisher. Yeah. So we've added publisher files as well. So if you have any of those file types and you don't, for whatever reason, you don't want to turn them into one of our tools, you can take that whole file type and upload it to the process. So to do that, you just hit this little plus sign, and then you're going to put in the name of the file. I would name it the same as what it's named in your directory or wherever it's saved on your network. If you name it the same, then you're going to know the title of that, if you see it anywhere else in your computer, is the same title of what's in TouchStone. Put in the purpose again. Don't miss these. So I think what happens is you'll run across a few that you're adding. You're like, well, that's obvious. I don't need to put the objective in because it's obvious in the title what it is. If that's the case, fine. But if it's at all ambiguous, put in the purpose of it. Why is it here? Why is it in this process? Then you hit create uploaded file. Now you'll see right here that the name of your file should appear here. And then here's where you drag the file into. You can click it and browse and find it on your computer. But I have a file here. I'm going to drag it and let go. It uploads it. You're going to see the blip. There's no reason to save anything. And then there you'll see the file. Someone has a question about scripts. I think I'll come back to that at the end. So now the file is uploaded. And if I want to view it, I hit view file. And my computer doesn't have Word, so it's not going to open it. But you'll see the file download and you click it, and then it will open in the software format that it was uploaded in. So if you uploaded a Word document, it's going to launch Word, and then you'll see your document. If you uploaded a spreadsheet, it's going to launch Excel, and then you'll see your document. For those of you who use Google Docs, you have to download it and then go and open the Google Doc and then bring it into Google Docs. Like everybody who uses Google Docs knows what I mean. It doesn't just launch Google Docs and allows you to see it like it does with Word or Excel. When you view your file, if you open it and view it, Word is open, for example, and I'm seeing my document in Word. If I make a change to that, that's all happening in Word. It's not happening in TouchStone. So remember, if you view a file and it's going to open in whatever software you uploaded it in, and you're making changes to that, you need to save it and then re-upload it to TouchStone. So you're saving the altered file, and then you're going to go back and drag the file right back into this screen here. So drag and drop uploaded file here, and then it's going to upload the new file and replace the old one with a new one, just like that. So that's the only thing to remember about uploaded files. If you make changes to those files, then you want to upload the altered file. Some examples of when you would want an uploaded file, if you have a spreadsheet, for example, there's no tool over here that runs calculations like a spreadsheet does. So if you do have something like a budget template or an inventory sheet, whatever it is, and you need it to do calculations, you need it to do math, then it needs to stay as a spreadsheet. So that would be a reason to upload a file. On the dashboard, which the very last session in a couple of weeks from now, I'm going to show examples of this. But on the dashboard, if you have a spreadsheet, for example, that has to be filled out quarterly or it's filled out for the year, you can do that on the dashboard. You'll just view the file, someone will add all the information to it, and then they re-upload it to the dashboard through their control panel, and then they can go and access that file. The next time they want to add more information to it, they view it. So in a sense, here where we are, this is where like the master documents are kept. So the master budget template would be kept here as an uploaded file. And then if I'm filling out the budget for the year, I do that through the dashboard. So examples would spreadsheets, PDF manuals of any kind. So like, PDF documents that are like multiple pages long, like 20, 50, 100 pages. Sometimes if you have a process on how to operate machinery, maybe you might want to upload the whole operations manual of how to, what that equipment is and how to use it. Any extra information regarding the process that you think is important. A PowerPoint presentation. I don't think people do PowerPoint presentations very much anymore, but if you do, that would sit here. Anytime you upload a file, just think to yourself, like, where is this file used while someone's doing this work? And if you can clearly identify that, remember to put it into the work plan. So go to the task in the work plan where the spreadsheet is filled out or where the PowerPoint presentation is given, and then create a hyperlink to it, because then that, again, it just shows people why it's there. One more point about uploaded files. If you have a Word document that is an uploaded file, I feel like it's preferable to put it in the document tool, which we're going to go to next. So the document tool is like a blank Word document. So that's what this is. We're in the document tool now. If I had a Word document that had this list in it of these customer satisfaction guidelines, rather than uploading that Word document to the uploaded files tool, I would make a document for it, call it customer satisfaction guidelines, and cut and paste it into here. And the reason is, if you keep it as an uploaded file, you're going to have to deal with that. Click the file, open Word, view the file. So there's extra steps to that. In addition, if you change anything in that file, like you add another guideline or change it in any way, you've got to do the file save as and then re-upload it. So this one, you saw me just click on it and boom, it opens. So this again is preferable if it's just text and nothing fancy to put it in the document tool rather than having it be an uploaded file. So moving on to the document tool. To make a document, again, just hit the plus sign and then you put in the name of your document, the why, the purpose, why it exists. Then you hit create document and then you'll see your name appear down here in the document section. And then if I click, this is going to open and show me what the document tool is. So we call this the document tool because it's like a blank Word document. It does pretty much everything that Word would do, the simple functions anyway. You can't make like links from this document other than hyperlinks. You can't do like autofill and stuff like that that Word I think does, and some people use it in that fashion. So this is great for just text, a list. Um, you can build a table if you want. So here's a table building row. You can choose columns and rows here, click, and now I've got a table. You can insert a picture if you want it to be like 8.5 by 11, like a big picture. You all saw me last week do images in tasks, which you can do. But if you have a big picture, like it has a lot of detail in it, and you don't want to have it smashed into a work plan task, you can put it into the document tool so it displays in a larger way, and then you can hyperlink it back to the work plan. But usually what I see here is text that is informational. It's a list of things. It's a list of standards, of qualities. And for whatever reason, it doesn't fit into a work plan because the work plan is workflow. It's like actions. And this kind of extra information is better off on its own than it would be kind of listed in a work plan. So when you're finished with the document, you just save. Pretty simple. If I was to have moved away from this without saving, I would have got the save warning that says, you got to save this before you can move on. Okay, that's the document tool. Next tool down is called a custom form. So you just saw me make this form right here, this table. And you certainly can do that. You can even cut and paste in like forms and tables from Word right into the document tool. But another tool to use when you want fillable fields is the custom form tool. So to make a custom form, you just click this little plus sign, and then I'm going to put in my custom form. Again, the purpose, hit create custom form. And now this is what it looks like before you've built anything. This is very similar to Google Forms for those of you who've used that. What is happening with the custom form is for whatever reason, I've decided that I need information when somebody has done this work. I need them to give me information about what happened. So these types of forms, just like checklists, can be used on the dashboard in TouchStone. So someone can go to this form, they see a copy of it, they fill it out, and they save it back to TouchStone. Then anyone who has the right access can run a report over here and see the forms that have been filled out by that person. So the short answer field is just that. It's a field where you've got usually like at less than a sentence is the short answer field is good for. So it could be something like somebody's name, and then I just hit save, and now you'll see this little short answer field. Paragraph is the same idea, except for it's a bigger field. So I hit paragraph. This could be for like comments or notes someone's supposed to take, or you could ask a question here that has an answer that you want written out. So it's not a multiple choice. It's somebody's interpretation of what happened that they write out in sentences. So this looks, when you view this over on the dashboard, this will expand infinitely. You can put as much text in here as you want, as opposed to the short answer field where you're gonna, when it gets to be more than, I think it's like 5 or 6 words, it cuts off. Next, you could ask multiple choice questions. So here you would put the question right up here, and then you give choices. Multiple choice only has one right answer. So this isn't, you can't select more than one answer here. If I want to add more choices, I just hit this little plus sign right here. And so this is my next choice. If I want less choices, then minus sign, then gets rid of the choices. When I'm happy with this, I hit save. And then this is what that looks like. If you want to edit something after you've already built it, you just click on it again and you can edit it. These choices also can get drug up and down to reorder them. So again, this is when there's one answer. When you're asking a question that has one answer, you might also want to do like a paragraph underneath that and put like, why? Why did you choose that? And so that's what that looks like. Check boxes have multiple answers. So you can have multiple choices checked off in a checklist box that you would enter. So checkbox, you could say, did you do this? And then you make, a list of those things. So you give choices or like, yes, no, maybe. Again, same idea. You can add or delete choices over here. Then lastly, drop down. So this is great for yes, no questions. So this could be a question and the choice could be yes, or it could be no, and then you can delete the last choice, or maybe you have a maybe like I was doing in the checklist, and then save, and that's what that looks like. These can be reordered just by dragging up and down too. So drag and drop is your default when you're thinking, how do I reorder anything? It's typically always drag up and down. Our library, the process library, has a lot of ideas for custom forms, like these two. So here's a customer complaint form. So that's what this looks like. There's a lot of great HR forms too. Anything that you pull from the library, like this form that you want to edit, you just click right on it and you see it opens, and then you can edit and change it. So all of it's editable. This is a good example of a form. This is like a customer complaint form where someone would fill this out. This is also a good idea. This is an employee test. So this is a test for the customer complaint process. So if somebody's studying and reading and watching videos and following the customer complaint process, after you've gone over it with them and you've seen them demonstrate their ability to do it, you can say, go ahead and take the test. You can go to the dashboard and assign the test even. And then they would get a notification saying you're ready to take the test. They'd go here and answer the questions in this test. Now, this is an open book test in a sense, because I could go up here to the work plan and I could see. So I think open-ended questions are better to test people's knowledge than multiple choice questions really are. So it doesn't bother me, just in my experience with training employees, it doesn't bother me that someone could go and look in the work plan and find it because you're asking for their own opinion. But if that does bother you and you want it to be a closed book test, then you can make the test in its own process. Okay. This is a good question, and I will answer everyone else's question, but this one I just saw, and it's related to this. If you have like other software where it has like customer management software where you would have something like this in that already, like some kind of custom form like this, that your employees would fill out when they're taking a complaint, then you wouldn't want to recreate this in TouchStone. So in those situations where you have other software that you're happy with, you may not use the custom form in that process. How TouchStone interacts with other software like that is we would have the customer complaint process here in TouchStone. And instead of putting this form in, we would have an explanation of where do you go to get the form? How do you fill the form out? What do you do after you filled it out? So that the instructions on how to complete that form and how to handle a customer complaint would be in TouchStone. And people would use that to be trained on and to be managed with. The actual going to the form and filling it out would become something that they, practice and get adept at over time. And they wouldn't necessarily need to come back here and look at the complaint process. So don't recreate things that you have in other software that already work well. Just remember that the standard operating procedures for all of it belongs in TouchStone. Just one more point about that. You could also make hyperlinks to your other software. So like if you had this customer complaint form could be an external link where someone could click here and go, if they were logged into your other software, it would take them right to that page where the form is. You could also take a screenshot of the form in your other system and draw little arrows and say, click here, do this, and put that into the work plan. Just more ideas. So let's talk about the next tool down. Okay, I'm going to go on. So this is called a policy note. So to make a policy, you click policy note, and then I'm going to put the name of the policy. Keep it short because you don't want to start to describe the policy in the title. You just want to name the policy. Hit create. And then this is what the policy template looks like. Pretty straightforward. It's going to be from someone to someone. I would encourage you to put position titles here so it's not personalized. So this could be from management or from the sales manager to all staff or to salespeople. Not someone's name. The date is the date it's created, and the effective date can be a week later, maybe, or however, whatever you think is reasonable. So the date is the date it's created. The effective date is when it goes into effect, new or revised. And then this is where the policy statement text goes, right in here. And then once you're happy with it, you hit save. And then that's what it looks like once it's saved. We're going to view this over on the dashboard. It's even more cleaned up looking over there. When you create a policy, it's a good idea if it's new to go to the dashboard and you can assign it to everyone who it pertains to. And then they'll get a notification saying your manager has just assigned this policy to you. The manager can make a note saying, we've had X, Y, and Z problem. This policy needs to be in full effect. Please review it. So then the employee does, and then the manager gets a notification back that they've read it and agreed to it. So let's talk about just what policies are in general and what our view of their place in SOPs is. So you'll notice that this policy tool, it's a tool within a process. So we're in this customer complaint process. The customer complaint process has workflows in it, actions like work plans. It has scripts. It may have forms that are filled out, and it may have policies. So the policy is related to the process. The only exception to that would be like an employee handbook, which have a lot of HR, like state and federal laws and guidelines. I've seen some great handbooks in TouchStone where people have literally like pulled apart the main sections of their handbooks and actually made them documents so that they could be referred to easier for management purposes. But an employee handbook may be an exception to what I'm about to say. Other than that, the policy should be related to the work that's happening or activities that occur. If it's not, it's very hard for employees to kind of remember that and know why it's important and what it's there for. If I learn all policies related to customer complaints while I'm learning this process, that's when I'm really going to remember why they're important and when I'm supposed to enforce this or even know about it. So that's why we put policies here inside of the processes that they pertain to. When you document a process, just ask yourself, is there anything that's legal, compliant, safety related, any rule that you can come up with or think about that would be important to the process? Some of these things will be obvious. If they're not, and if you think about it, and you can't come up with one, then there's no reason to force it. But if you do, then create a policy for it. Another way to use the policy note tool is if there are issues occurring. So if you've got, and this goes back to the process of the week last week on managers creating process solutions. If you've got an issue happening in your department, maybe there's a really negative employee that has been there for a long time, and then that person treated customers very poorly, and then that culture kind of came out that it's us and them, and the customers, are.
Actually, hang on.
Sorry. Yeah, he's muted. Oh, you just have to mute. So when you have situations like that, think if you can develop a policy for it. So all staff will respect and treat customers with the utmost of kindness, whatever it is. create the policy, and then send it out to everyone, assign it to the people who it pertains to. Kind of draw a line in the
Since
sand.
I only have like 20 minutes worth of work.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to try to mute him, but I
Mhm. Hang on one second, because for some reason I'm not muted.
there you go. I fixed it. Yeah, so use it as like rules management. That's a good way to think about it. That's like a study term where it's a philosophy where it's considered that people can be managed with rules. I think some of that is good in terms of a policy. If you've been putting up with negative behavior, if you've been putting up with a culture that is divisive in some way, or an attitude that is very negative, create a policy around it. Send it off to all the employees. Explain the why of it. Explain the details of it in the statement itself. What is its purpose? Why is it important? And then what happens is you draw a line in the sand, you say, here's the policy, and then anybody who butts up against that, you manage them with it. So you send it back to them. Let's have a meeting about this. Let's go over the policy. Maybe you're unaware, maybe you're unconscious about what's happening. Let's talk about it. And it's not just something where I told you to do this last week, or I yelled at everybody in a meeting because it was so frustrating, and then everyone forgot 2 weeks later. It's like written out and is something that you can point to. Lastly, we have the video and audio tools. So to make a video or audio tool, you just click, and then you're going to put, same as the other tools, what's the name of the video? What's the purpose of it? And then you hit create video, very similar to the uploaded files. So I've named it, I put the title in, now I've got this field. I take my video, has to be an MP4 file, drag it into the field. It loads really quick. This is a short video. I think this is like maybe 5 minutes. But if you have like an hour-long video, it could take a little longer to load, but it doesn't take a huge amount of time. In this particular video, if I hit play, I'm going to numb it, but you can see like this is a zoom, and then you start to see the video itself. Once the video is uploaded, it's in TouchStone forever. Like it will run fast. And when people watch them through the dashboard, there won't be any delays or lag time. It'll go from beginning to end. So with videos, if the process lends itself to a visual interaction of it, then I would say definitely do a video for sure. You can do screen capture videos, like this one is a screen capture video. So using Loom, which is a great tool for those of you who haven't seen it. This is Loom right here. This is what it looks like. This is the free version, and you just hit start, and then it's going to start to like, it tells you which screen to go on. I just hit share. Now it's going to start to give me a countdown. You can even do your pictures over here on the side, like ours are here. And then I'm capturing the screen movements as I go through. So I'm clicking on the here and I'm talking about it. Then I'm going back to here. As long as you have audio set up in your computer, it's going to capture all of that. And then when you're happy with it, you hit finish, and then it's going to load the Loom video and show it to you. Then you can download this video, and then all you do is drag it into the field, the video field, just like I did this one. So pretty easy. Make your videos easy. I think it doesn't have to be some big Hollywood production. I think people get hung up on that, and then it stops you from, making videos because you get so like intense about it, and it has to be scripted and has to be perfect. And instead of like just allowing yourself to flub up and then keep going, just that's fine. It's human. And when your employees are watching these, it needs to be human. I think if it looks like a Hollywood production, then it really has less meaning. Another thing about that is you'll make more if you don't get hung up on, the quality or the perfection in it. Make ad hoc quick videos. Do like a welcome to the company video, and then put that in your onboarding process. And so when new employees being onboarded, they click a little video of you welcoming them to the department if you're a manager, or welcoming them to the company. So ask yourself, does the process like this one lend itself to a video, a visual interaction? If it does, then shoot a video using Loom, pull out your phone and just take a video, download it to your computer, drag it into the TouchStone field, and it'll load. One thing, though, that I'll say is that a video doesn't replace the need for a work plan. So I can't just make this process, call it customer complaint, shoot a video, upload the video, done. No, you can't do that because people need more than that to learn. They need to see a step by step. If I have a video, even if I have fancy video software and I can, make chapters and all of that, it's still very cumbersome to expect someone, if they're looking at doing a step by step like this one, and have to be able to scroll to that point in the video for how do I fill out the form and oh, what do I do next after this? It's just unmanageable. You can see why. So videos enhance the documentation. They make it better. They add to it. They don't replace. It's like imagining going to college and taking a course where all you did was watch videos, which happens more nowadays than it used to before the pandemic. You need a textbook, right? You need something that could be studied and something that could be referred back to. And then lastly here, just a few points about audio. I'm not going to add an audio. It's the same thing. You click this, put the name, drag an MP3 file, not a video file, right into the field and it will appear. Here's a couple ideas though. Anytime you have a script, I think it's fantastic to have an audio or even a video, depending on what makes the most sense, because people can hear how it's supposed to sound. So read your scripts in exactly the way that they're written out with even say the prompt or have it a role play with two people and then speak the words so someone can hear it. Do things like this, where this is an audio file on how not to sound, an example of how not to be. And you're purposefully having people make mistakes so whoever's learning can hear why it should be said a certain way, why their tone should be a certain way. Because if they can actually hear how it comes across, if they don't do it that way, then it's more meaningful when they're learning. Okay, so without running out of time here, I just want to talk about the process of the week. And if this goes a little long, I think I'm going to continue with these because I'm going to show you two processes. I think I'm going to continue with those next week or revisit them again because they're such great processes. There are three processes I want to talk about. So I'm going to go back here to show you. So we're on this effort of learning during this training series on how to get people, your employees, to follow processes, how to manage with processes. So this has been the theme of the process of the week, this whole session. At the end, the last session, I'm going to review all of it again quickly, just so for those of you who don't remember all the processes that I've highlighted. There's one really important element, I think, in management, and that has to do with goal setting for people. We all know that this is important in life in general, to create a goal and then go after your goal. It's even more important in business. So there's processes in the Guiding the Business library right here. There's one on strategic planning. There's also this, which is an offshoot of strategic planning. It's just simply your mission, your purpose, your values. Then there is a process you can create out of this process individually for departments and or for people. So this is an example of that. Strategic planning for human resources, strategic planning for sales, strategic planning for customer service. So you look at your org chart and you decide positions, departments, and even people within those departments that you want to implement this idea of strategic planning and creating goals and tracking yourself towards those goals. The goals are created in something like this, like these are our goals for the year. And then you can have key indicators, which allow you as a manager, to track the progress towards the goals. So as a manager, you want to help your employees to create these goals. You want to even tell them what their goals should be, and then you want to track their progress towards them. So these two tools for managers are great in that regard. And this all can be done in TouchStone, which is nice as well. So in the strategic planning process, this is more for like company-wide. So this is something the president, the board of directors would do. Sometimes the president may decide to involve the key managers in coming up with a strategic plan. You can see there's a lot in this process. There's all these videos on how to create a strategic plan, the purpose of one. There's videos on vision. So the purpose of this is to help you understand how to create the strategic plan. There's tools down here, like there's a little eMyth strategic target with something that was created by Michael Gerber. These are all just, again, tools to help you create your strategic plan. Down here is where it really starts to come together in TouchStone. So there's a document here called Annual Priorities. And this is so simple. You can see it's just really basic. The annual priorities come from the strategic plan. So I've written out my strategic plan, I've written out my mission, purpose, values, and then I look at that and decide what is tangible within that we want to create for this year. And I'll list out the priorities, and then I would break those priorities into quarters. So these are my annual goals for 2024. And then I say, okay, what are we going to get done in Q1, Q2, Q3? Again, really simple. It has to be simple. Otherwise, people get overwhelmed by it, and then, nothing ever happens because it's too complicated. It's too hard to track progress towards it. So this little sheet can be used for every one of your employees you want to do this with, every one of your managers that you want to do this with. And so I'm going to show you a little trick here. As long as you all promise not to abuse this, I'm going to show you a little trick. So if I wanted to get another copy of this, say, for my sales department and my operations department and my finance department, I could go up and archive this. So archive, okay. Now what I've essentially done is created a copy of this. So now I could go here to the archive, and you see it right here. I'll just restore it. And so now, if you look down here, I have 2 of these. Why I don't want you to abuse this is we don't want copies of things. We don't want to create duplicates of processes and work plans, because that, you understand why that's not good. That's SOP chaos. That's why you're in TouchStone. But in situations like this, you might want multiple copies of something that you can use with multiple departments. So the key is go right to the title and just say for sales. And now I'm saved this. And so now I know this is my annual priorities for sales. Then I would go over here to guiding the business. And then I'm going to go here to processes, and I'm going to go create. And I'm going to say strategic planning for sales. If I could do that, strategic plan for sales. Clearly you would write it out better than that. I'm going to put it in management, and then I hit save. So now I've just created a new process. It's right here. So now I'm going to go back to this strategic planning process. And you remember the copy that I made right here. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to move it. So I just went through this when we were talking about the process tools and the customer complaint process. Move process. I'm going to hit the drop down here. I'm going to go to management, which is where I put this. On here, then I hit the drop down here, and there's my new process I just added, and then I hit move. So now this is out of this process and it's into that new one. So if I go back here to guiding the business and I click on this process, here it is. So this is a way to create multiple copies of this annual priorities for strategic planning form, if you want to do it for every department or even people within a department. If I wanted to copy this again, I just click on it, and now I'm kind of doing it inside of this process, but I would archive it, and then I'd have a copy that I would restore, and then I could move it. So this is why I'm going to go through this again next week too, just to remind people, because it is kind of a workaround for getting a copy of something. But once this exists, then I can go and add this to I'm going to add it to my customer support position. So I can add it to the position that's going to be using it. So here's customer support. I just linked it to their job description there, and then I hit close. Now I can go back here to the dashboard, and these are my customer support people. And if I click on one of them, like John here, these are all his groups with all his processes in them. But if this new process is going to be right here in the default, because this is where, I added it to. So now, for those of you who are following me, I can go create group, and I can call this planning maybe, and then I'm going to save it. So now I have this new group here. I'm going to take this and I'll move it into there. And so now this is all just all nice and tidy for John now. It's right up here. I can even move this group to the top if I want to. And so now here's this process. I can go and assign this to him and say, hey, there's a new process in TouchStone on annual priorities for sales. I can assign it to him right here if I want to. Or I could work with him in a meeting and say, okay, let's go through the annual priorities of what you're going to do this year. So we start to list them out, and then I create the quarterly. And then once this is created, we save it together. And now this is in TouchStone for him to be able to use and for us to use together. So again, this is about a tool for furthering this idea of getting employees to follow processes, getting them to identify problems that are occurring and maybe work on process solutions, or encouraging them to have goals that they go after and that you work together as a manager to make happen. This is all again under this umbrella of trying to create a game worth playing here, a place where people want to be. And I think planning and milestones and growing as professionals and as people really, our jobs play a big part in that. So this element of let's create goals for you, let's create a plan for the department, and then let's follow through on those are very process based. It's very, it dovetails with everything you're trying to get accomplished in TouchStone.